Welcome to latest infidelity tales where the truth stings and the heart remembers. I was the perfect wife, the dependable mother until temptation whispered my name. What followed shattered my marriage, shook my family, and exposed a side of me I never thought existed. This is more than a story of betrayal, it's a confession, raw and real, of love lost in the shadows of lust and blurred boundaries. It all kicked off with something I was never meant to witness. I'm Elizabeth, and for most of my life, I've been the dependable woman everyone counts on. I had a fulfilling career, a cherished home, and a marriage that, though not flawless, felt strong and lasting. Jack was my rock. We've been married for 2 decades. Even as the spark of our early days settled into a cozy routine, I never questioned his love or loyalty. He was the guy who remembered anniversaries, held my hand in the movies, and always made me feel secure. At least, that's what I believed. Next up was our son, Daniel. He wasn't our own. We adopted him at 16. After years of battling infertility, Daniel bounced between foster homes throughout his life. When he arrived, he was quiet, reserved, and deeply affected by the chaos he'd faced. Jack and I aimed to provide him the stability and love he craved, and for a time, it felt like we were nailing it. Daniel blossomed into a confident, kind young man, and I couldn't be prouder of who he was becoming. As the years passed, I started to sense something off. Daniel was more than just attached to us. He was all in for me. He trailed me through the house, hanging on my every word like a shadow. He plopped down beside me on the couch, our legs touching, and I'd get this inexplicable flutter in my chest. I convinced myself it was nothing. He was just a boy who'd never known a mother's love, and I was the closest he'd ever had to it. I sensed there was more beneath the surface. The way he glanced at me at times, that gaze wasn't how a son should look at his mother. His eyes burned with hunger, a longing that twisted my stomach with guilt and an unnamed feeling. Jack saw it as well, but kept quiet. He shot me sideways glances whenever Daniel was nearby, his jaw clenched, frustration simmering beneath the surface. He was clearly uncomfortable but struggled to speak up without hurting Daniel's feelings. We both acted like everything was fine. Even as the tension in our house thickened daily, that night changed everything. On a warm summer evening, Jack was burning the midnight oil. After dinner, Daniel headed to his room while I tackled the cleanup in the kitchen. The house was eerily quiet, a heavy silence that pressed down on everything. I wrapped up the dishes and headed to check on Daniel before hitting the hay. The door was slightly open. I could hear faint music playing from inside. I knocked softly, but no one answered. I nudged the door wider and peeked inside, wondering if he was asleep. What I witnessed took my breath away. Daniel sat on his bed back to the door, oblivious to my presence. His shirt was gone, jeans unbuttoned. I accidentally witnessed a private moment I was never meant to see. My breath hitched. A whirlwind of shock, embarrassment, and an unnamed feeling surged within me. I should have walked away, shut the door, and acted like I never saw a thing. I didn't. I stood frozen, watching Daniel's movements grow urgent and desperate. Suddenly, as if he felt me there, he spun around. Our eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, we stood still. Daniel's face turned red as he yanked his hand back, scrambling to button his jeans. A wave of guilt and shame hit me, but alongside it was an electric thrill that twisted my stomach in knots. "Elizabeth," Daniel said, his voice shaking. "I had no idea you were here." I was at a loss for words. My mind raced, heart pounding hard. I should have apologized. Should have told him to move on from what happened. I stood there staring at him, my body betraying me in ways I couldn't admit. Without a second thought, I stepped into the room and shut the door behind me. As I shut the door, I realized there was no way to go back. Daniel's room buzzed with energy, the air thick and electric, as if the walls were holding fire breath. Daniel sat on the bed, face flushed, eyes wide with shock, and something else that twisted my stomach. "Elizabeth," he murmured again, his voice just a breath. "Apologies, oops, that wasn't meant for your eyes." I held off on responding initially. My mind raced, heart pounding, so loud, I was sure he could hear it. I should have just turned around and walked out. I should have just apologized and told him to move on. I didn't. I stepped closer, eyes locked on his. "It's okay," I said, my voice shaking. "No need to say sorry." Daniel's eyes widened, resembling a frightened child for a brief moment, feeling vulnerable, uncertain, and craving reassurance. But then, his expression changed, dark and hungry. He stood up, closing the distance between us. "Claire," he said, voice low and uncertain, "I can't shake you from my mind. Something's going on." His words sent chills through me, igniting a whirlwind of emotions. Guilt, shame, and an unnamed feeling lurking beneath. I realized this was wrong, a line I should never cross. His intense gaze and the closeness of his body left me completely flustered. "Daniel," I whispered, "this isn't happening. That's not right." He shook his head, eyes brimming with desperation and longing. "I get it's not right, but my feelings are out of control. You're the only one who truly cares about me, Elizabeth. You're the only one who's ever made me feel important." His words sliced through me, igniting a rush of guilt and shame. I knew I had to push him away to say this could never happen. I just didn't want to. I craved him just as fiercely as he craved me. Before I knew it, I reached out and touched his face, my fingers tracing the line of his jaw. Daniel's breath caught, and for a heartbeat, he froze, his gaze locked on mine. He leaned in and kissed me slowly, but surely. It was no innocent kiss, the sort a son would give his mother. It was ravenous, urgent, bursting with the longing and pain he'd held inside for ages. And God help me, I kissed him right back. For a brief instant, I lost sight of everything. My son, my marriage, only aware of the sensation of his lips on mine. As he pulled away, we gasped for air, our faces flushed with a mix of shame and desire. I wanted to tell him this could never happen again, but the words stuck in my throat. I bolted to my room and slammed the door shut, locking it tight. I lay in bed all night, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was just a mistake, a fleeting moment of weakness I could shake off. Yet I always knew the truth inside. That kiss ignited a dark, dangerous spark within me that I couldn't shake off. I wanted to pretend it never happened, but deep down I knew it was just a start. In the days after that first kiss, guilt and confusion swirled around like a storm. I dodged Daniel at every turn, diving headfirst into work and chores to stay busy. No matter how hectic my schedule got, he was always on my mind. His lips on mine replayed endlessly in my mind, a vivid reminder of my past actions and my lingering desires. Daniel appeared equally torn. He maintained his distance, yet I could sense his gaze on me every time we shared a room. A tension crackled between us, the air thick with an oppressive energy. Jack definitely caught it. He could see perfectly well. He stayed silent, and I was too scared to mention it. That night, everything exploded. Jack was away at a work conference, leaving me home alone with Daniel. All day, we danced around each other, both avoiding the obvious tension in the air. By evening, the tension reached a breaking point. I poured a glass of wine, hoping it would help me unwind. Sitting on the couch, I blankly stared at the TV when Daniel burst into the room. First, he was silent. He stood there, piercing blue, eyes locked on me. At last, he spoke, his voice low and unsure. "Elizabeth," he said, and the way he spoke my name sent a shiver down my spine. "Let's chat." I sipped my wine, steadying my nerves. "What's it about?" He moved in, hands buried in his pockets. "Guess what?" I knew, but I wasn't ready to confront it. "Confront it." "Daniel, this is a bad idea," I exclaimed, my voice shaking. "What went down the other night? That was a misstep. We won't let it happen again." He shook his head, a pained look on his face. "It was intentional." "Definitely wasn't. I felt this way for ages, Claire." I wasn't sure how to say it. I locked eyes with him, my heart racing. "Daniel, you're my kid." "This isn't correct." "I'm not your son," he shouted, his voice escalating. "I'm not family. You didn't bring me up. We're not family. Not truly." His words landed like a gut punch. I wanted to argue and prove him wrong, but deep down I knew he was right. Daniel wasn't my own. He was a teenager. We took in a boy who became part of our lives by chance, not by blood. Still, That didn't change the fact that what we were doing was wrong. Daniel, please, I urged, my voice cracking. This isn't happening. That's not okay. He moved in, eyes blazing with intensity. I don't care if it's right or wrong. I adore you, Claire. I believe you love me back. I tried to protest, but the words just wouldn't come because he was right. Plain and simple. I loved him, not like a mother loves her son, but like a woman loves a man. That realization sent chills down my spine. Before I could react, Daniel surged forward and kissed me again. This time, I stayed put. I lost myself in a moment of confusion and crossed a boundary that should never have been touched. Fingers tangled in his hair as the wine glass slipped from my grip and shattered on the floor. In that instant, everything else faded away. Not my marriage, not my values, not the life I fought to create. Daniel was everything. The way he made me feel was all that counted. We went beyond kissing. It all spiraled from there. Suddenly we were in my bedroom, clothes strewn everywhere. It was wrong, so wrong, but I just couldn't care. After years, I finally felt alive and desired. Wanted like Jack hadn't made me feel. In ages, we found ourselves tangled in a web of regret. A place we could never undo. Or we gave into emotions that we both knew were dangerous and wrong. Daniel's head rested on my chest, his fingers dancing over my skin. I ought to have felt guilty, ashamed. Yet, all I experienced was an unusual calm. This doesn't change a thing, I said, trying to reassure myself more than him. This can't happen again. Daniel glanced up at me. His eyes were deep and intense. It has, Claire. It's only going to keep going. I wanted to argue and prove him wrong, but I just couldn't. I knew he was right deep down. This was no one-off error. A new chapter was just starting. A game changer for all of us. The weeks after that night spun into a frenzy of secrecy and guilt. Daniel and I danced around each other all day. Keep Jack in the dark. No hints. No slips. But at night when the house fell silent and Jack was asleep, the silence became a battleground between conscience and temptation. I knew it was wrong, but I just couldn't help myself. Daniel was an obsession, an addiction I couldn't shake. No matter my efforts, Jack had no clue what was happening. He had no clue about the tension in the house. So focused on his work, he missed the way Daniel and I exchanged glances when we thought no one was looking. I could see the cracks forming in our marriage. Jack and I were once inseparable, but now an unbridgeable distance lay between us. I convinced myself it was merely a phase. Things would snap back to normal as soon as Daniel left the house. But I knew the truth beneath it all. One evening, everything shifted. Jack rushed home from work, his face pale and drawn. He was feeling the pressure, and it was becoming obvious. In the kitchen, I was whipping up dinner when he strolled in and took a seat at the table. "We need to talk," he said, his voice thick with fatigue. I froze, heart racing. Did he discover Daniel and me? Was this the moment it all fell apart? "What's up?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Jack sighed, raking a hand through his hair. "Hey, it's Daniel. He's in trouble for sure." Relief washed over me quickly, chased by guilt. "What are you talking about?" "I got a call from his school today," Jack said. "He's been acting out, skipping classes, and getting into fights. They're concerned for him." I scowled, thoughts racing. Daniel was a model student, quiet, well-behaved, and always on point. This was totally unlike him. "Why did they say that?" inquired. Jack shook his head vigorously. "No, but I believe it ties back to his history. It's been tough for him, bouncing from one foster home to the next. He might just be having a tough time adjusting." I nodded, but a nagging feeling lingered that there was more beneath the surface. "Daniel's been acting weird lately, but I figured it was just the affair. Is there more to the story?" Later that night, after Jack hit the hay, I slipped into Daniel's room. He sat on the bed, eyes fixed on the wall, expression vacant. I plopped down next to him and gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "Hey, Daniel, what's up?" I inquired softly. "Your dad filled me in on the school. What's with the behavior?" He hesitated to respond. Suddenly, he turned to face me. His eyes burned with anger and pain. "I can't do this anymore," he said, voice shaking. "I can't keep faking it when things are falling apart. My heart dropped. What are you saying? He jumped up and started pacing the room. His fists tightened. This is tearing me apart, Claire. I love you, but I can't keep sneaking around and lying to Jack like this. It's unfair to both of us. A lump formed in my throat. Daniel, I started, but he cut me off. No comments from you. You kicked this off. You kissed me that night. I can't get you out of my mind. That's not right, Claire. That's just not right. My eyes welled up as the truth of his words hit me. I kicked this off. I crossed a line that should never have been crossed. Now Daniel was facing the consequences. I'm sorry, he whispered, my voice cracking. I never intended to hurt you. Daniel halted his pacing, turning to me with a softened expression. You may not think so, but it doesn't change what happened. Now I'm at a loss for what to do next. I grabbed his hand, squeezing it tight. We've got this, Daniel. United. I've got you covered. Yet, as I spoke, I realized those words held no weight. No simple escape from this chaos. The damage was irreversible. I wanted to believe we could fix things, but deep down, I felt disaster looming in the wake of Daniel's confession. Everything spiraled into a whirlwind of agony and remorse. Jack left the house, unable to stand the sight of me or Daniel. He filed for divorce, and the process was quick and ruthless. He let go of the house and the cash without a fight. He wanted me gone, and honestly, I couldn't blame him. On a cold, gray morning, the final decree arrived. I sat on the floor of our empty living room, staring at the papers in my hands, feeling like my life had just ended. Daniel was fighting to find his footing. He quit school and landed a job at a local grocery store, but it was obvious he was just going through the motions. He hardly said a word to me, and when he did, it was just to unleash his anger and pin the blame on me for everything that went wrong. You ruined my life, he exclaimed one night. His voice shook with rage. You stole my shot at a normal life, a family. That was mine to have. I wanted to point out his role in this, but I knew it would be pointless. I had shattered his life. I realized too late how deeply my actions had affected someone who once trusted me most, turning our bond into something dark and destructive. Now we were both facing the consequences. One evening, while cleaning the attic, I stumbled upon a box of old photographs. They were snapshots of Jack and me from the early days of our marriage. We were young, happy, and totally in love. Sitting on the floor, I flipped through the photos, tears streaming down my face, recalling the life we once shared. Suddenly, at the bottom of the box, I discovered a letter. It was a note from Jack penned right after our wedding. He expressed his love for me, his excitement to begin our life together, and his eagerness to grow old by my side. I kept reading the words. Claire, you mean the world to me. Life without you unthinkable. I vowed to love you, cherish you, and stay faithful for life. Anger surged within me at his words, at the promises he made. For life. Anger surged within me at his words, at the promises he made and shattered. I felt a profound aching sadness. Grief for the life gone, for the love shattered, for the people we used to be. I was lost with the letter, the memories, the pain. I packed it all back in the box and shoved it into the attic corner out of sight. But I knew it would always exist. A flashback to my losses, the choices I made, the life I once lived. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today on Latest Infidelity Tales. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. We read everyone. Your encouragement keeps us going, bringing you powerful and thought-provoking stories every day. And if you're ready for more, just click the video above. Another unforgettable tale is waiting for you.